Hey y'all, in this video, I'm gonna share how much it costs to get 501c3 status. How do you pay for it? I'm gonna break this down in this video today. Let's get into it. Hey y'all, Tiffany here with Boss on the Budget. I help new and small nonprofits get up and running, and also I help new nonprofits raise money for their nonprofits. This is really a passion of mine. I really want to help new nonprofit founders kind of wade through the noise and the mess to get to the facts and to be able to do things the right way when they're starting their nonprofit. So I wanted to do a quick video just to clear up what it really costs to apply for 501c3 status, what to look for, what to look out for. So in this video, it's going to be pretty quick. I'm going to talk about the associated costs for getting 501c3 status. I'm going to talk about the two forms. That's why there are two different costs. I'm going to explain a little bit about where you pay and how you pay. And then at the end of the video, I want you to make sure you watch to the end, because I'm just going to share some tips on how to avoid being scammed and how to avoid like some of the traps that people who are unaware kind of fall into. All right. So first things first, how much does it cost to get 501c3 status? Now keep in mind, I am only talking about 501c3 status, the process you use with the IRS. Now, if you're trying to start a nonprofit and you want to know the cost of starting a nonprofit, that's a different question. I tackled this a little bit in the video that I'm linking above. So it explains a little bit more about the cost of starting a nonprofit, but I'm specifically talking about a piece of that process, which is applying for 501c3 tax-exempt status. Now, there are two different costs, all right? So one cost is $275. The other cost is $600. And I also want to be clear what those costs are. That is the cost of you submitting your paperwork, right? So when somebody quotes you for starting your nonprofit and getting your 501c3 status, you just got to be sure what you're paying for. So part of that is going to have to be the filing fee, whether it's $275 or $600. And then they're going to charge you on top of that to actually do the paperwork for you. Now, why are there two different amounts? Because there are two different forms that you can use to apply for 501c3 status. The first form, which is the original form, is the 1023. It is a very long, detailed form where you're entering a lot of information to let the IRS know what your intentions are in terms of performing charitable activities. Now, the 1023 form is the one that's $600. It's the form that was always in place back in the day. Everyone had to fill this out. It's the form that takes the longest amount of time to get a response back from the IRS. It can take up to 6 months, or maybe even more in really tough times like the pandemic or during furloughs and things like that. But it is what I like to call the OG form. And that's what costs $600. Now, the 1023EZ is the streamlined version of that form. It is much shorter. It's about 3 pages, and it's not a lot of information that you have to provide. And that is specifically created for smaller nonprofits or nonprofits that don't have a big budget starting out, and certain nonprofits that meet eligibility requirements. Now, I broke all of this down in a video called What is the 1023EZ form? I'm linking it above and in the comments below, so make sure you check it out. The 1023 form costs $275. Big difference, right? But that's because the form is shorter and you don't have to provide as much information, and it doesn't take as long for the IRS to review and process those applications. So got that out of the way, right? So you understand now that there are two different costs for getting 501c3 status, and it just depends on your situation, whether or not you're eligible for the easy form, whether or not you just want to fill out the long form. It just depends on what you decide, right? So that video I talked about before can help you decide whether or not you want to fill out one or the other. Now, how do you do this? Like, how do you pay for it? Up until recently, the IRS was taking paper forms, but right now the IRS is only accepting electronic versions of the 1023 or the 1023EZ. So that means you have to sign up for an account at pay.gov. And once you sign up for an account, you can search for the form that you're looking for, either 1023 or the EZ. And then that form will come up. You can start filling it out. And when it's time to submit your form, you'll be asked to pay. Now you can set up, when you're setting up your account, you can set up your payment information. You can put your card or your account information in there already, and they'll save that information. So when you need to come back and you're ready to submit, you can just submit the form and they will charge the payment method that you have on file. So it's a simple process, and it's a pretty streamlined process to be able to pay and submit your forms. Now, I promised at the end of this video to talk about like what are some things you can do to avoid being scammed, because honestly, let's be real, like the whole space of starting a business and especially starting a nonprofit, some people just don't have good intentions, and so you need to guard yourself and you need to be mindful. And then sometimes people act like they can do something and they don't fully understand the process and can make mistakes that can be devastating for your nonprofit and costly for your nonprofit. So I always like to throw tips out there just to help you kind of avoid some of these pitfalls that a lot of people fall into. So first things first, if you are paying for your 501c3 status and you're doing the form yourself and you're not paying through pay.gov, that's a red flag. That is the only place you should be submitting payment to the US government. So if you're not using that website and you're trying to apply somewhere else, that's a red flag. Another thing I want you to be mindful of is sometimes when you search this on Google, when you search the names of the form or how to apply for 501c3 status, there are some websites that are designed to trap you. There are some websites where they make it look like it's an actual government website and it looks legit, but if you actually read the fine print, it's not. This happens a lot when people sign up for their employer identification number. They don't realize that that process is free, like you don't have to pay for that, but there are websites that come up when you search that make you feel like, oh, I gotta pay for this, and they'll take you down this line and you don't even realize you're not actually on the US government website. You're not on the IRS website. So I just want you to be mindful of what's in the address bar if you do a search and if you're trying to submit, so that you make sure that you're at the right place. The only place you should be getting forms, the only place you should be getting, putting in payment information to submit those forms is the irs.gov and pay.gov. All right, irs.gov to look at the forms if you want to reference them, if you want to look at instructions, if you just want to read up on what the IRS says about exempt organizations, and pay.gov to actually submit and pay. It's really difficult when you don't know anything about nonprofits to navigate this space. Let's just be real. So that's why I recorded a nonprofit startup masterclass where I kind of walk you through what you're supposed to do when you're starting a nonprofit, strategy wise, but also just the logistics of filling out the form. Which form should you fill out? What's the information you need to make sure you have included in your articles of incorporation? What should you be doing at the state level versus the federal level? All of those details that are kind of hard to figure out on your own, I included it all in one masterclass. So if you're interested in getting that information, the link to the startup masterclass is below. You can check it out and purchase it for yourself below. If you have questions, you can always reach out to me at www.bossonabudget.com. Otherwise, I'll see you in the next video.